I want to start by saying that I am not someone who scares easily. I grew up in a house where nothing worked right. Creaky floors, doors that swung open on their own, a basement that always smelled like something I could not name. I learned early how to explain things away, give everything a logical reason, and the fear does not get a foothold. That is how I made it to 32 years old without ever truly being afraid of the dark. And then my grandmother died. I went back to her house, and everything I thought I knew about fear turned out to be practice. My grandmother's name was Elsa. She was 78 years old. She lived alone by choice, and she was, I say this with complete sincerity, the sharpest person I had ever met. Not warm, not soft, sharp. She noticed everything, she remembered everything, and she documented everything in journals she had kept since she was a teenager. The police called it natural causes. Her heart simply stopped in the night, no signs of distress. Her neighbor found her 3 days later in her reading chair, a cup of cold tea beside her. The medical examiner estimated she passed sometime around 3 in the morning. He could not pin it down more precisely than that, except he noted something in his report, just a small detail, the kind of thing you would normally skip over. The clock on her mantel had stopped, and it was pointed at exactly 3:17. I drove up to the house on a Friday evening in October. I had not visited in 4 years. I am not proud of that. Life gets in the way, and then life runs out, and then you are sitting in a driveway asking yourself why you kept saying next time. The first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. Not countryside quiet, something heavier than that. The kind of quiet that feels like it is being maintained, like something is holding it in place. The front door was unlocked. I pushed it open and stood in the doorway with my flashlight and just looked at the place. Everything was exactly as I remembered it, and I mean that in a way that is not comforting. Nothing had changed, not even the magazines on the side table. The same coat on the coat rack, the welcome mat said the same word, home. It was like a photograph of a house, precise, preserved, frozen. I made it to the living room before I stopped being organized. The clock was on the mantel exactly where it always had been, a big brass antique with a pendulum. Gran wound it every Sunday her entire adult life. That clock had never been wrong. It was stopped at 3:17. The pendulum froze mid-arc. The ticking just ceased, and the cold arrived. That specific cold Gran had described in her journals. Not a draft, not winter seeping through old insulation. It came from inside the room, like something was drawing the warmth out of the air and keeping it. I didn't get up, I didn't run. I sat there and I breathed and I waited. And then it passed. The cold lifted, the pendulum swung, 3:18. And I realized I had been holding my breath for a full minute. The next night, I found the 4th tape. It had been hidden inside the hollowed-out spine of a dictionary on the bottom shelf. Gran was meticulous. She had hidden it deliberately, not just placed it. Gran's voice on night 4 sounded different, not afraid, past afraid. There's a kind of calm that comes from moving past fear into something on the other side of it. I'd heard that quality in a voice once before in the last weeks of my father's life, and I had hoped never to hear it again. She said she had been researching it for 30 years, that she hadn't started because something scared her. She had started because she found documents in an old family chest that suggested this thing had been here before, much longer ago. Her grandmother had written about it, and her grandmother before that. The farmhouse was built in 1887. Whatever this was, whatever it is, it had been present on this property since before the house was standing, since the land was cleared. Gran said there was a way to confront it, not destroy it, she was very clear about that, Nothing that old, she said, can simply be destroyed, but you could make it leave. You could make it understand that this family was a watching family, a noticing family, that we paid attention. She said it fed on being ignored, on the sideways glance, on the person who senses something wrong and calls it nothing. But if you actually saw it, fully, deliberately, without looking away, it lost whatever hold it had built up. It had to move on, find somewhere less watched to be patient in. To see it fully, she said, you couldn't use your eyes directly. The brain is too clever. It corrects what you see, smooths the edges, makes the impossible fit into something recognizable. You had to use a mirror, hold it at an angle, catch the part of the room where you felt it, because the mirror does not lie the way eyes do. I spent the next night waiting. I moved Gran's leather chair to face the mantel clock. I found the mirror in the cedar chest, right where she had said it would be. I cut the electricity, just a candle, the chair, the clock, and the mirror. I sent a text to the detective I had spoken to during the estate process. If you don't hear from me by 5 in the morning, come to the house. Do not come before 5. He replied, that is not a normal text message. I did not respond. I sat there from midnight to 3:17. Those were the longest 3 hours of my life. Not because anything happened, because nothing happened, and I couldn't tell if that meant safety or patience. And then, at 3:17 exactly, the pendulum stopped, the cold arrived, immediate, total, and I raised the mirror. I don't know how to describe what I saw in it. I will try. The reflection showed the corner of the room behind me, and in that corner there was something, not a shape, not a figure, an organization of wrongness, angles that could not coexist, darkness that was denser than the darkness around it, a place where space seemed to have been folded in a way that should not be possible. And at the center of it, where a face would be if faces existed in that geometry, a concentration of absence so complete that looking at it felt like looking at a hole in the world. It was looking at me, or doing whatever the equivalent of looking is for something without eyes. I did not look away. The cold receded, the pendulum swung. 3:17 became 3:18, and the thing in the corner of the mirror was simply no longer there. I sat in that chair until sunrise. I did not sleep. I wasn't trying to. The detective came at 5 in the morning. I met him on the porch with a cup of coffee. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "Are you okay?" I said,
I came as soon
think
as I
so.
heard.
He said, "Do you want to tell me what that text message was about?" I said, "Not yet." I spent one more day in the house. I turned every book around so the spines faced outward. I put the mirror on the shelf in Gran's study, in plain view, not hidden, an old family tool in a place where it could be found. I took the clock when I left, had it serviced. The clockmaker said there was nothing mechanically wrong. He said whatever was stopping it wasn't something he could fix. I told him that was fine. I didn't need it fixed. I just needed it to keep running. It has been running ever since, on the mantle in my apartment. I wind it every Sunday, the way Elsa did. I check the clock every night before I go to sleep, not because I am afraid. I check it the way my great-great-grandmother checked it, and the way Elsa checked it, and I imagine every woman in my family who ever lived in that house checked it. To make sure it's running, to make sure time is moving forward, to make sure nothing is living in the pause. My great-great-grandmother wrote something at the end of her document, the last thing she put down. I have memorized it. The hollow is patient the way time is patient. It will wait. It always waits. But the women of this family have always been watchers. We have always known to look. We have always known that the thing seen loses its power, and the thing unseen grows. Pay attention. That's all. Pay attention, and it cannot touch you. Forget to look, and you become its invitation.
I came as soon as I heard.
I know, it's been a lot.
Are you all right?
I will be.
I checked every gear, every spring. It should work, but it doesn't.